Hey, what's up? It's Chris, your favorite coach, your favorite host, all things favorite. And if you don't have a favorite, I always say, why not let it be me? I've built a business out of telling people that don't have favorites that I'm their favorite. So I haven't done one of these in a while. I just got off the road. I was just got back from Wisconsin yesterday. I was in Michigan last week. The week before that, I was in Illinois. And I'm on the ground for a little bit. So maybe you'll be seeing more of these things. I get to meet some really interesting people, some really great people. And one of the folks that I met is with us today. His name is Rodney Palmer. And you're going to love this guy. So yeah, I bring him to the stage. Woo! We can't hear people and if they're clapping or not, but maybe hopefully they are clapping. So Rodney, thanks for joining us.
Oh man, it's good to be here, Chris. I love it. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
And I'll tell you one thing that I loved. I said, do you want to be on this thing? You said, absolutely. And so many people are like, what are you going to ask me? And I'm like, oh, no, we don't go there. Because I think magic happens in the spontaneous and the live. And so many people they freeze up when they're on camera. That's why I don't like to record. These things are recorded, but I just like to do it live, record that, and then see what kind of magic comes out of the back end. So tell us who you are, what you're all about, and the magic that Rodney's producing out there in the world.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a family man. Been married 40 years, got 7 grandkids, got 3 beautiful kids with spouses. Very blessed man. Got a lot of great things going on, but I think one of the things that you and I share in common is we're lifelong learners. We want to learn about stuff. And I think it's very important to be a successful entrepreneur, a successful person, to be a better version of yourself. And so any opportunity I have to share my story with other people, to encourage just one person if we have to, I'm excited about it. Yeah. Chris, I grew up in the inner city, then we moved out to the suburbs. I had this saint of a teacher, her name was Sally Lockhart. I couldn't read or write in 3rd grade. And so, when you can't do that, it forces you into another person that's in a good way. And what happened for me was I had an opportunity to get up in front of my classmates and essentially make a covenant that I was going to be somebody someday. I was going to have a family. I was going to go play college athletics. I was going to get a college degree. I was going to own businesses. I had no idea where it would take me. Fast forward, I had that aha moment walking home that day from a teacher that encouraged me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be somebody, man. And fast forward, hey, look, all those things have come true for me.
That's great.
And so when I say take the opportunity to share with other people, I'm glad to do it. I'm also willing to learn from you, which I've already done in the last few days since I met you. Wow, you're a smart cat, man. So
yeah, well, it's not a lot of people told me I was smart growing up. So, people told me that I was always looking for the easy way out. That it's funny because what people look as like, you're always looking for the loopholes and the easy way out is now business efficiency. And I get paid a lot of money to help businesses find those loopholes and easy things. So it's focusing on your talents. Now, I mean, I love that you're a family man and you work. I mean, it's all, we're human beings before human doings, right? So it's who do we be? Who are we before we go and do things? And you're a family man. You're really committed to that. I mean, me too, my personal life. And I have kind of like a low economic drive. So I don't want to be one of these corporate warriors like yourself. And you've got you and I are we've got a lot going on. So, a real estate background, you've got a real estate background. You're the owner of you've got that
the bacon coffees.
Yep. You've got the coffee business. You've got all these things going on. So, tell us a little bit about that, how you arrived in those things, the evolution of that, where you are, where you're going.
Well, I'm very blessed. My dad and mom started a company called Lansing Mercy Ambulance Service many, many years ago. And I'd like to say I made my last payment to them many, many years ago. I am 63 years old, but it was a family legacy thing. We got into helping the sick and the injured, and my brothers and I took it over in a partnership. And of course, I love my brothers. It's a family business, and we've taken it to the next step. And that's where I started my commerce journey after I graduated from college. But there were so many other things that I had aspired to do, and real estate is what I cut my teeth on. My wife and I, when we first started working for my dad, we weren't making much money, but I felt it was highly important for me to work on things myself. And so Eileen and I, you talk about creative financing, which I always pick up on, and there was this thing called a VA loan out there. And so we assumed a loan on a mortgage I didn't think I could ever afford.
Sure.
But we ended up flipping the house 18 months later with a new baby and made 20 grand. 20 grand in 1985 was a big chunk for me. And so that's when it's like, hey, you know what? Real estate is a place that I can always be at and start because it's a comfort zone for me. So that journey kind of evolved into getting involved in, as Jim Collins would say, too many things. You can be good at everything and great at nothing. Okay. And I've had to learn that lesson the hard way, but got into the Bigby Coffees. My son Landon, junior year of college, comes to me, says, Dad, I got this concept that I think we should do. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, Bigby Coffee. And I'm like, are you crazy? We're not going into the coffee business. Well, 8 stores later, the rest is history. I'm glad we got into the franchising business. And, I don't want this to be a promo just for Bigby Coffee, but what a great concept. And our family has benefited greatly from it. My sons get along in our partnership. My wife works behind the scenes. We all work together as a team. But there's still that little inkling of Rodney Palmer. I think that's where you and I are alike, Chris, that I want to do something a little bit more for me. Like I want to do the coaching and the speaking and help other people because, I think I got a few things to share here and there.
Yeah. It's kind of like a natural progression. I mean, I was running companies myself and people were asking me to go speak places, and I started to have to turn things down because I had an office and, I was an investor in a couple other ones, and I was kind of confined to like this roof up. And man, I loved leading and developing real estate people. And I had a coach that said, hey, Chris, what are you saying yes to that's making you say no to stuff you really want to do? And I realized I had to let that go. Now, I mean, I love this because I'm a leverage guy, and getting into the franchise business, that's totally a leverage play. So you've got these 8 stores. I imagine they're kind of, you have managers in place, you have people running them. I mean, how involved are you personally and I like these things because like you're saying, you want to do something more for yourself. How can you be on the road out there speaking and coaching and doing these things, building a business, unless you have businesses running in the background, producing income? So how involved are you in the day-to-day of these 8 Bigby coffee stores?
So I would say I'll have to break it down in a percentage. I always tell people, take this the right way. I run my mouth, my sons and my wife run the stores, and we have great managers. I have a great team. It's set up beautiful, and I mean, you have to evolve to that, right? Because if you start just making it about you, you can't be in 8 stores. Rodney Palmer can't be everywhere. But I think for us, we got a good team. My sons have their gifts. They stay in their gift set and how they operate the company. I'm involved with the financing with the banks, you leveraging some of the relationships that I have made over the years. And Chris, I forgot to tell you something really important. Let me just go back for just a minute.
Yeah. I
was in real estate for 5 years, from 2003 till about 2009, 2010.
Well, your first thing, that house you flipped, you were an investor before getting licensed.
That's correct. Okay,
cool. So that your journey started off as an investor. You saw the opportunity to build wealth in real estate, and then you eventually got licensed.
I did, and what happened was I stepped away from the family business for a few years. Mm-hmm. Now, I since have been hired back to the ambulance company as my primary occupation. But what happened was I got involved in real estate, and I wasn't as good as you, but I was fairly good early on. Okay. But what I noticed is that everybody wants to be your cloak. It has to be Rodney Palmer that they want. And I wanted to give them everything. And real estate people are the hardest working people in the world. And I tell everybody this, not that I'm lazy, but I couldn't duplicate Rodney Palmer at that time. And so that's why I made the transition back into just being a serial entrepreneur and doing my thing with real estate investments and building family legacy and wealth in a different angle other than being in real estate. Now, I'll compliment one of the brokers in our office. He did say, my happiest day was when you left the office, because he was a top producer. He's like, but I just feel like it's not a part-time job. And that's why I transitioned into what I'm doing now. And I feel very comfortable and good in my skin where I'm at now.
It is. I mean, it is certainly, it is difficult. And a lot of people look to get into it part-time. Are there people doing it part-time
Sure.
successfully? There's some people that figured it out, school teachers that work over the summer, or people that are, that have really, really good networks, that are kind of involved with, country clubs and
Yeah.
things like that. I've seen it, but that's certainly a niche thing that takes figuring out, because it is a lot of work. And I think
Mhm.
one of the magical things that, one of the things I talk to my real estate clients about is how many clients can you service at a given time, and knowing how many listings you can hold and how many buyers you can actively work with and still provide the same service
Mhm.
is tremendously liberating. And sometimes we don't know, and we're saying yes to too many things. It's preventing us from saying no to the right things. We bite off more than we can chew. But that's a big challenge in the real estate industry. For you to recognize that and say, hey, like, this is a lot. And maybe, look, I have a license. I haven't actively listened sold since 2010. I got into
Mhm.
leadership, and it required me to get out of production. I just refer to people, and even
Mhm.
now, as a coach and speaker and consultant, a lot of what I do is I meet with people and I send them elsewhere. You know what? I've got a marketing company that's real good for you. I've got this technology company that's real good for you. So I send them other places. So it's just being able to know what you can do and you mentioned your family, your sons and stuff with the coffee, but everyone stays in their strength zone, in their wheelhouse. I
Mhm.
mean, is that a recurring theme in all the businesses have been involved with, all the things you've plugged into, is kind of, finding the right people, you staying in your wheelhouse, and you actually, wanting to make sure other people are operating in their strength zone?
I think it's a great question. I have this rule. It's called the Jonathan rule.
Mhm.
Jonathan was a good second in command to David, King David. And so the rule is that you can't be a good leader unless you're a good follower. And so I build off of, okay, how can I be a good follower? And then when opportunity comes in, when your leadership is needed, that's when I come in, and it's not forced, but I've known how to be in the trenches before you can just be out front. And I think that's a highly important principle. And I think it's one that I'm trying to relay to our management staff and our teams. Obviously every business poses different challenges. For example, the ambulance company, we're short staffed all the time. You can't find licensed paramedics anywhere. And so I sometimes find myself working on the ambulance still because we're short. But I think that shows your staff that you're willing, to brush the toilet, to clean the bathroom, and take care of what needs to be taken care of. And that's one of the things that struck me about you, Chris, when I was listening to some of your stuff. Man, you're just willing to dig in and become a better leader. And now, look at you now. You're now teaching people how to be better leaders.
Yeah, it was all accidental. It kind of finds you, but it's funny because when I started school, I wanted to be maybe like a high school English teacher and be able to add value that way, or a
Mhm.
psychologist. I was interested in different things. I never fancied myself a business person or a salesperson, and then sure enough, it kind of I I was good at it, and I ended up, and now I'm doing it. And
Mhm.
it's it's a good place to be. I like where I am, and so many people. I mean, not a day goes by that someone says, "Oh man, you should get back into this. You'd crush it, or you should run this company." Man, I got to say no to a lot of stuff that sounds really good, because in order to do what I want to do, and that's kind of, talk to people like yourself here from sunny South Florida, and
Yeah. Well, saying no is the hardest lesson that we have to learn in business.
yeah,
And I'm still having a hard time saying no because I want to build on my speaking business. I want to finish my book that I'm writing. But you know what? There are things that take precedence that delay some of these things.
yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at in life right now.
Yeah, life is what happens when you're making other plans, and nobody's exempt from it. So
Mhm.
it's what am I doing right now? Is this in alignment with something that's going
Mhm.
to enrich my business, my life, my relationships? And it's looking at all of those things and constantly reevaluating on a daily basis. And I've got some questions. I'll share them with you when we're done. It's like
Sure.
these questions, like my filtering questions. Like, I ask these things to myself over and over again as I kind of go through things, and it really helps a lot, because it's really the questions that we ask ourselves, on a daily basis, that create the steps that we take. But
Yeah,
I kind
absolutely.
of, did you feel like you were always? Did you discover one day, like all of a sudden, you found yourself in a leadership position, or was it like, you were forced to be in it, and then you kind of cut your teeth as a leader?
It's kind of funny. I never was chose in any of my athletic teams at college level or at high school, the captain.
Okay.
I was never the captain. And I look back and it always kind of bothered me. And I think part of that is I wasn't willing to bring other people to my hard workouts. I talk a little bit, I'll get into my walk-on mentality when you ask me that question, because I love talking about that. But I will tell you that when you sit there and you go, you know what? So what happened was I went to a church-led leadership conference where John Maxwell was at.
Yeah.
And it was like that guy was reaching into my soul and said, hey, you're really talented, dude, but you suck as a leader. and so I said, you know what? So what I did was I went on a personal growth journey, and I started reading anywhere from a book to 8 books a month. And I've been doing that for 30 years.
Great.
And I know you do the same thing.
Sure.
I could tell. And so what happens is how can I be a better leader without being a better version of myself? And that's where that kicks in for me. And it's a driver. And I never feel like I've arrived. If you start feeling like you arrived, well,
yeah,
good luck.
School's never out for the motivated. And I'm so excited about that. I don't know what I don't know. And, I love John Maxwell, and I'm certified there. And I used to
Me too. 4 years.
Do a leadership book with my staff every year. And one of the first leadership books I would like to introduce them to is the 360-degree leader, which is people don't think about leading from the middle of an organization. But the reality is most of us are middle leaders, right? So, we're leading up, we're leading across, we're leading down. And then that 5 levels of leadership, what a great, easy way. I do a keynote with the 5 levels of leadership, and it's just good stuff out there. And it actually is different than what people think. Yeah. And I was in Wisconsin, and I taught a class in AI, which was packed. And then after that, I taught a broker forward class. I taught masterful coaching in challenging times, which I did the 1-hour version in Michigan, and then ended up being not enough time. But I had full 2 hours to do this thing. And some people came up to me and they said, hey, I'm not in leadership. Would this be a good class for me to take? And I said, well, if you're interested in having better conversations and communicating at a higher level, you'll definitely get something out of this. And don't say you're not a leader. I mean, you're a leader, your real estate sales, you are a leader to your sellers, your buyers. There's leadership there. You've got families, you've got all kinds of stuff. So, and it was so nice to have, I had like a brand new agent. She came to me afterwards. She's like, man, so many things opened up for me. I'm so glad I took the risk to sit in this class. Cause I kept telling people, I'm like, if it's not for you, go to something else. And they're like, you won't be offended if it's not from, like, no, listen, I've been doing this too long to get offended when people leave. As a matter of fact, I think the unsubscribe button is one of the best things ever invented. Because listen, if you don't want to be in my world, I don't want you to be in my world. It's not, it's like we're in a world of like all vanity metrics. People are, people coming to me like, hey, pay us to get 10,000 Instagram followers. No, I'm not doing that. For what? I mean, if you get me in front of people that actually are interested in what we're doing here, that's a different story. But I'm not so concerned with that stuff. It's just really about the 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever people that you can touch and kind of have an impact on that level. And that's why I never wanted to work with coaches. When I got into coaching, there's too many coaches out there. I'm like, no one's doing the work. I mean, on LinkedIn, do you got 1 million inquiries a day about, I read your profile. We're helping coaches do this and that and the other thing. It's like, well,
every day.
It's insane, and that's just really not my cup of tea. But I do have some coaches I'm working with now because I have clients that are business owners, clients that, and then the next step for them, they're like, I want to share what I've done here, what you've helped me do. And I'm like, awesome. So let's create a program out of that. I've done like hybrid programs with people, and it's cool to be able to work with different kinds of business owners. I got a personal injury attorney, a restaurant attorney, a restaurant owner, and people in the real estate business, mortgage people, all kinds of stuff. And it's just, I mean, I'm so fired up about that kind of stuff. And now I'm loving seeing people make that transition like yourself, kind of getting out there, learning how to tell your story, because you never know who's going to be inspired. That's what happened to me. It was all accidental. I was getting asked to teach about stuff, and people were like, I want more of what you got. And I'm like, I got nothing. Give me your business card. And that's when I had to start kind of getting organized and building this stuff. So now I'm fortunate to be able to share it with people.
Yeah. It's funny. 4 years ago, I joined the Maxwell team. It was the best $4,000 I ever spent. Okay. And people go, why do you say that? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I thought I was a good speaker. I thought I was a good presenter until I went through their program and found out, oh man, I'm doing a lot of things wrong. And that's what I mean by I'm so grateful for all this information that's out there on learning. The coaches like you and people that are actively coaching and speaking and influencing others and leadership and personal. It's so important because, again, that kind of information helps people build the life they love. And that's what they always talk about at Big B Corporate, right?
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
I just, it's their thing. And I, sometimes I like, well, it's a hard work building the life you love. It's not just happen. But I will tell you, just grateful. Like when I went to your seminar, and I hope I'm not going on a turn here, but when I went to your seminar, I was just there to get CE credits.
Yeah,
and
that happens a lot.
But here's this guy that's energetic, that's got it going on. And he stimulates my brain on owner financing, which I've done some of. I've done quite a bit of. I have notes out there on my own properties. We could talk for hours on that kind of stuff. But it's learning and how can I be a better real estate investor? And I think that's one of the things that I was honed in on with you, man. It was like, yeah, this guy knows what's going down.
Yeah, that's it. You never know. That's my least favorite thing to teach. It's funny because I've done these things, and I wrote that class because somebody asked for it. I forgot who was it. It was a virtual I was doing, I think in Montana, and they were like, "Do you have anything on creative financing?" And I said, "Well, I've done some creative financing deals. I know private investors." I'm like, yeah, I've got the toolbox with all this stuff. I got to turn it into a class. So that's what I did. It's my least favorite thing to talk about, but I guess it's relevant for people. But I'm glad you were there. But it's business people like yourself that kind of get that. And I wish there was two guys sitting there and they came up and they said, "We're some vendors here." They're like, "We have a company that buys owner financing loans at the end of their term.
Wow.
We convert to owner finance." I'm like, "Why didn't you guys say anything?" And they're like, "Oh, we didn't want to steal this. We didn't want to, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Man, I love it when people contribute." And I got their cards. And I mean, there's some guys I want to reach out and talk to because that sounds like a unique niche thing. Hey, we're converting owner financing loans to, they're taking them over and stuff. And I'm curious to know how that works. And there's so much stuff out there. Like, I'm curious. I don't know anything about Big B Coffee. I want to look into that. I want to see what that's all about. That sounds like a pretty cool franchise.
Yeah. So 1985, Bob and Mike, they're the founders of Big B Coffee. They decided to franchise. And of course, DeLuca was a Lansing guy, and Big B Coffee's out of Lansing, Michigan. So you got Subway Coffee. So they were influenced by him to start franchising. And now there's almost 500 locations. Wow. And they're continuing to grow. And it's because there's two reasons why we got involved, because we really did our due diligence. Sure. I mean, when my son came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, let's get into the coffee business," I'm like, okay, well, we're going to do some research. We're going to do our due diligence. That's what we mitigate risk. That's what entrepreneurs do. We don't just take it, we mitigate it. And so I said, okay, so the next thing you know, I'm at every Big B Coffee, every Starbucks, every concept out there doing click, click, click. And I'm like, wow, this could be a really good business. Well, then you start so I went to one of their discovery days, and the greatest thing, Mike McFall, one of the CEOs, he goes, some guy stands up and goes, "Hey, what? I just cut through all of it. Tell me what the ROI is." And he says, "Bleepity bleep, sit down, go figure it out yourself." That's when I got interested, Chris.
Sure.
Figure it out yourself. So we figured it out, and somebody goes, "Well, how come, do you really like Big B Coffee?" Well, I don't know. We own 8 of them now. I would have stopped after 1 if we didn't.
Yeah.
So great company, great franchise, but their coffee, there's 2 other significant things I want to say about Big B Coffee. One is it offers opportunity for ownership for people. People want, if you talk to any of your friends, they all want to own something. They want to they want to be their own boss for the most part. Well, they offer a great opportunity, but not only is it a profitable business, but we also now are farm direct with all of our, and I mean, when I say we're farm direct with our coffee growers, it's an incredible thing what Big B Coffee and Global Orange is doing on top of meeting the needs of the consumer. We have a great product, great services, great concept. And so I'm glad to be a part of Big B Nation. Shout out to all the other franchise owners, because a lot of your franchise owners, when I share this link, will be watching this. you'll get some traction from this. I promise.
Yeah, well, it's that's a cool thing. I mean, I'm a student of business, and I'm always all about those things, especially when from the top down it comes from like uh, where it's they're kind of in alignment with how I want to do things. It's I mean, there's so many things out there. There's so many things out there. How do you cut through the clutter? And it's kind of talking to people like yourself. And I'm glad that we connected. And thanks for coming up and saying hi, and thanks for saying hello. I want to ask you,
Okay.
is there anything I'm not asking you, or that you want to share that would be super valuable in your journey that everybody should
Well, I got lots of questions for you, but we'll do that after we're off on air, because I think you're just a top-notch guy, and I can learn from people like you. I think that one of the things that I touched on in our promo was about the walk-on mentality. And that is something that I'd like to think, if anybody knows what a walk-on is, I was a walk-on athlete as a college basketball player. I had to earn my way to get onto that team. I wasn't just handed a scholarship because I was something special in high school or anything. But what I mean by that is every single thing that I do, Chris, is with the mentality that I may not be the best at it, but I'm going to work the hardest. My college coaches, both of them, said, "You're the hardest working athlete we ever had." Now, that's because of that walk-on mentality. And I take that same approach. I'm passionate. I wear it on my sleeve. But at the same time, I want to be the very best that I can be. And that's not just sitting around and, running my mouth. It's, no, you got to put the work in. And when I say I put the work in, I was not the best basketball player. I was a good athlete. But 4 hours a day for 8 straight years, I got pretty good at it. I wasn't an All-American, but you put the work in, and I do the same mentality with my businesses as an entrepreneur, the same exact mentality. And then the other key component that you haven't asked me about is, who is this cat? Well, I'll tell you, I am humble at heart, because we have to be. I want to help and serve others. And that takes a servant's heart. And I just hope that that's what my grandkids remember me by, is being a servant.
That's it's sometimes I always use that term, servant leadership. And I remember when I was running my company, one of my top guys came to me and he's like, "Hey man, you got to cool it with like the servant stuff, because it could be making you, make you look weak." And I'm like, "Well, really?" Well, it's like I don't want people to misunderstand that. That when I say servant leadership, it means you're there ready to roll up your sleeves and you're doing it. You're leading, but you're doing it from a servant's perspective of like, I'm leading, but it's serving other people. It's not, you're not there pointing your finger and like making commands and doing all that stuff. I think we've all kind of had we've all had leaders in our lives that we've loved and that we've didn't care for, that kind of left a little to be desired. And I never wanted to be one of those. I never wanted to be one of those punitive leaders. And I remember when I was an agent in an office, I remember agents were saying, "Oh, the team leader here she was my best friend until she hired me, and now I never see her." And I didn't want to be that guy either. So it's just having consistency through and through. And it seems like you're doing that in all your businesses and in your family, and in your church. And it's I tip my hat to you. We don't come across a lot of people like that. So keep doing what you're doing. And I mean, what's next for you? I know you're gonna finish this book. You're gonna get on the road, start speaking and coaching.
Yeah.
It's all in the cards for you, I think.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've had to delay, because I've had some paid speaking events here in the last couple of years, and they've been marginally good. You know how that is when you're starting out. But at the same time, it's something that I really want to hone in on. I'm going to be 63 in another 10 days, and I have no plans of retiring. I want to own some more real estate, and I want to find some more creative ways to own that real estate. I mean, Chris, you know the stat. There's $68 trillion worth of wealth with baby boomers, and they got nobody to give it to. So, so I'm honing in on the fact that us baby boomers need their properties and their businesses bought and purchased and for the next generation. And so I'm kind of looking at that. I'm looking at I really like speaking on personal growth more than leadership. There's so many people in the leadership lane, so I'm excited about that. The one thing that I want to leave you with, though, if I could,
please.
I was having a really bad day about 2 years ago. It was just post-COVID, and I got asked to work on the ambulance for a 24-hour shift, which absolutely wiped me out because we're a busy ambulance service. And I remember going to a call where an elderly lady had laid on the floor for 3 days with nobody checking on her. And I was all grit, like, man, woe is me, woe is me. Next thing I know, I am standing, helping this poor, helpless person, helping her onto the stretcher. She's covered in fecal matter. She's been there for 3 days. She's dehydrated. I mean, she's near death. And all of a sudden it hit me, man. I was the fortunate one, the lucky one, to help her that day. And so that is where we're supposed to walk every single day. And right away, my attitude changed because we all have bad days. But dude, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, man, to your audience, get out there, make a difference, say hi to somebody, be nice. You've said it. I heard you use the NIC word several times in yours. I love the word nice. And so anyway, man, just appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us, Rodney. And is there any way, is there a website or something where people can contact you? I know you're on LinkedIn. What's the best way for people to kind of get in contact
thank
with
you. RodDPalmer.com, RodDPalmer.com. It gives a lot of my life story, more than I'd like, in there. Uh-huh. And it tells a snapshot of where I am. Financially, I haven't arrived yet. I'd like to keep going, but I don't want that to be my life goal anymore. I want to share, give, and leave a legacy for my grandkids and my kids.
That's awesome. So I just actually put that there in the comments. So if you're seeing us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, there should be in the comment there. Well, it doesn't go to, I guess it doesn't go to LinkedIn, but roddpalmer.com. Thanks again. And we're going to, I consider you in my world now. We are virtual family members, and we're gonna see a lot coming from you real soon. I'm happy to be part of it. Thank you for joining us today, and peace out, everybody. See you at the next one.